Competencies was always challenging to our work with teachers, or in our work with teachers, and ESD competences and the competences specified for the curriculum were always at odds with each other. So the question became, how do curriculum and ESD competences combine in our subject teaching? And we worked from some of the latest work that's been done on competences, and the teacher just said, wow, isn't that really difficult to try to assess? Well, if we look at it carefully, we see that systems thinking, and then the process competencies, and then the action competencies tend to be reflected in this very useful diagram around starting up the teaching of knowledge so that students will recognize concerns, then being able to develop the competences to assess value, and finally being able to do something in terms of sustainability and actions. And when we looked at this with the 4-quadrant model, we were able to see, okay, so in quadrant 1, we can have our startup story. This can expand into quadrant 2, when they will be finding out more, developing interpersonal competences, developing values thinking and competency in that area, strategic thinking, and also the iterative processes that they're able to do in terms of the actions, into interpersonal competences and mindset, and then into the implementation. So we started to make sense of this around starting from knowing, then developing know-how, competences for being able to then do things. And this wasn't particularly helpful, but it was a good starting point. And when we started to look at the curriculum competences and in the subject disciplines and the ESD competences, we started to see that there are a lot of cultural and personal competences that develop, particularly systems thinking out of heritage and life experience, encompassing knowledge, aesthetics, dispositions, so that the students are enabled to know things in relation to the context of their concern. That's the story part in quadrant 1 and the story sharing. And then developing know-how comes with the progression into quadrant 2 and quadrant 3, where they're able to critically evaluate concerns and look at better ways of doing things together. And so critical systems modeling, that's systems thinking, critical thinking, and problem solving, are often at the beginning of a program. And that's where the teachers were able to think about competences, building and progressing, and being able to constitute and assess more sustainable ways of being. This led to actions and assessment of how well they worked. And this was more the reflexive modes of action. In other words, the agency-centered ones, like being able to anticipate normatively, being able to be strategic, and collaboration and self-awareness. So what we were able to do is to come up with an open framework where teachers were able to reconcile very successfully the competencies specified in the curriculum and the competences necessary for moving towards action competence using a handprint care approach. From knowing into developing know-how, and then being able to use the knowing and the know-how in useful ways. So what we were able to deduce from this is that ESD competences are compatible with the competencies specified for subject teaching and can activate higher order thinking skills towards positive learning actions for more just and sustainable futures. And here, once again, there's a lot of work out there that you can explore to deepen your understanding of these ideas.